It's World and 92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Gabriella. And as always, I've got with me in the studio architect Bozimo. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Gabriella. Great to be here.
Great to have you here as well. So today on the show, we're going to just jump right into the conversation. It promises to be fun and interesting. What do we talk about today?
I think today we'll talk about the tech in architecture.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not news to anybody that the entire world is operating on increasingly sophisticated levels of technology to do literally everything. The things that used to make us go to the bank and take a tally number are now done in the comfort of your own home using your smartphone. You're able to monitor things from remote locations. You're able to give instructions to people all over the world without physically interacting. And a lot of all that is enabled because you incorporate facilities and stuff into your work or your home environment. And it is that technology that has to be understood, well considered, maybe customized to suit the context where you might be, and then installed and maintained, and where necessary, upgraded. The tech in architecture is also involved in how you actually produce the projects.
Okay.
It's involved in how you run the projects or the buildings or the systems, how you monitor their systems, and how you make sure that everything is going on properly. All for what? To ensure that the people who use or visit such buildings are having a safe, comfortable, sustainable life. You're trying to minimize waste. You're trying to ensure that facilities are optimized so that you don't have to run facilities that are not serving people at any time. There are many kinds of things that create the background to functioning structures and buildings. And architects and the rest of the built environment team have a responsibility to, where necessary, introduce those ideas to you. Other times, take your ideas that you've experienced and incorporate them in.
Interesting. So obviously you have the chance to join the conversation. We'd like that you call in with your questions when the time comes, but you can get the numbers if you don't have them yet. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. You can also call 0817-923-0007 or 0817-923-0009. WhatsApp number is 0809 0306416. Over to you, Architect Bozimo.
Okay, let's start by simply saying, what is technology after all? Technology, or what technology entails, is merely applying a systematic technique, method, or approach to solve a problem. And what is often our problem in the built environment? Ensuring that whatever projects may be conceived are properly conceived to incorporate and target the needs of the users in a safe manner, ensuring that there's durability, sustainability, and the rest. So the problem is, okay, you're coming out from the forest, metaphorically, and you're converting the built environment around yourself, not just the buildings, but the streets they're on, the things that supply services and everything. You're trying to make sure that those are done in such a way that over time you have done a net positive rather than a net negative to nature. You never want a situation where projects are built or developed and at the end of the day you have, no matter how sophisticated it is, a slum. That is the big risk when perhaps there's too much unconsidered development. People just have the means and they just rush in and create stuff, I say, because not buildings and everything, but because it's not properly considered. The environment's not well planned. You don't have sufficient space, setbacks, sidewalks, and the rest. And you never want that. So technology is, you took time, you considered what is at stake, all the parameters, and then you came up with a solution. Architecture is well known to be the mastery of the art and science of dealing with the built environment. Let me just put it as simply as that. The built environment is the structures, the streets, the signage, all the rest of it. So what role what are some of the roles that technology serves in and around the built environment? One of the first things that we have to be increasingly conscious of is the amount of energy we use and the sources of said energy, and the need to be able to measure that. So one of the first things we are all very familiar with, without really thinking about it, is our metering systems. Many houses have either the old conventional meter that used to turn, or the modern day prepaid meters for our energy consumption. And as people say, you are being very, very conscious of how much energy you're using these days, because, hey, energy costs money. So one of the first things an architect is always going to do is consider ways to minimize your energy consumption right from the design stage. We will take a look at what you need done, take a look at the standards that are applicable. We will ensure that we take your brief. Your brief is, your requirements, what you request, what's possible, what's probable, what's impossible to do. Put that into the mix of the design process and yield a project that is climatically appropriate. You see, there are lots of buildings you see in some places right now with a whole lot of glass and all that. Glass is a beautiful material. I love it. But depending on where it's placed and if or how it's shaded, it can create a huge heat burden on your building's cooling systems. So the designer has to be conscious of what materials you're using, where your project is, how the project is oriented, and then you're going to use things perhaps like, air conditioners. That's part of the technology in architecture. But you are going to, of course, work with the mechanical engineers. They're the ones with the expertise to incorporate the right quantum and quantity of air conditioning systems. And there are different types. There are the central air conditioning, there are the window units, there are the split units. There are different things that they can do. Now, all of those things, of course, have to be powered. So part of the technology needs in the building is powering things. You also want to have alarm systems. It could be fire alarms, it could be burglar alarms, it could be thermostats to keep temperatures where they ought to be. These are all part of technology. That the thing about the technology in architecture is that when it's well considered, well positioned, you find that it blends into the background. You don't have to be conscious of it, because the person who's working with you has thought of all your needs, has consulted the right consultants, ensured that everybody has done their work properly, put it together, and when it's now delivered in your environment, it's pretty well done. You find that everything is where it ought to be at your fingertips. You have some people who have technology in their houses where they have solar energy, and on their smartphones today, they can actually monitor the consumption of power, how power is being generated by the sun. They can turn items on and off. Of course, we've all watched the movies where in a space somebody just claps their hand and the light comes on, light goes off. That's technology.
Yeah.
And there is no end to what excellent and fancy things you can incorporate in a project. Not just a house, an office building. When you have access control, like we have at the studio here, I can't just walk in here. I have to be allowed into the studio because you guys have a fantastic fingerprint something that recognizes your fingerprints. So a non-authorized person cannot get in here. That is deliberate to ensure that, one, there's security. We always want to know who's around. Things like CCTV, part of the technology. It's in an office here. Some people have it in their homes too, in secret places, to monitor their maybe domestic help, ensure that the help is not doing unauthorized things. And we all have seen some of the viral videos where domestic helpers have, in some cases, been seen doing terrible things. Some of those devices can be monitored remotely. So even though nobody except the homeowners know that these are on, in their offices, they can just have something, at the corner of their screen or on their smart device, making sure that things are going on appropriately at home. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who has ever left my house and wondered, did I turn off the kettle? Maybe others have not done it, but with technology, you can monitor those things to turn them on and off when necessary. And it's really all about what's the goal in built environment? You want to ensure that, as I said, everything is environmentally sustainably placed. You want to incorporate things like signage. You want to incorporate metering. You want to be able to monitor your building systems. You want to be able to measure consumption when necessary and ensure that you're keeping it within predetermined limits when necessary. It's possible to do something where you tell your children you can watch TV from A to B. If you're not there, knowing children like me, we might try to go on. But with technology, you can control the time they're allowed to watch, even the types of things they're allowed to watch, and turn them on and off. It's all about incorporating this. Then communication, of course, is a key part of technology, especially in office buildings. Communication and IT systems. The whole world today is built on an IT infrastructure, one way or the other. To be able to communicate between offices, between locations, between people. Of course, we have, many of us, the cell phones, but there are also more robust systems where you can communicate electronically through email and the rest. And all those things don't just happen. When you come into a well-designed office, you have a socket on the wall. You plug in your laptop, it logs into a central server, and you're online. But think about it. That socket didn't place itself. The connection from that socket to a central server didn't just happen. People have had to consider up front what types of activities will happen in these spaces, how will we distribute the people, and then provide what it'll mean so that people just come in and it seems seamless. It is that process of incorporating the ideas, what's current, what's coming around the corner, because years before you're talking about it being obsolete. You can now tell the person, if we go to a higher technology, perhaps we can extend the useful life for 25 years. That could be encouraging, but it might be at a cost. So the owner has that opportunity to weigh the pros and cons. I always say it's better to do a piece of construction or to incorporate something while you're doing construction, because at least at that point everything is in a quote-unquote mess. It's disruptive. It's not when you have done everything beautifully. You want to come back, crack walls, put new surfaces, new finishes. It's always easier to do it now, and the cost of doing it now will invariably be cheaper than doing it later, for the simple reason that, one, inflation, obviously. Two, when you stop processes to do new work, time is money. So if I had to refit this studio now, something would have to give. Some shows may be pre-recorded, something would have to give. So it's always better to do it when you can. So the building team, typically the design team, will give owners the options and the costs and the complexity, so that the owner, who is ultimately the person to decide, can make that key decision.
All right, so now we'll take a very quick break. A very interesting conversation, I must say. When we come back, we'll obviously continue. If you have questions, you can call in and ask those questions as regards to the conversation today. The numbers to call are 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. You can also call 0817-923-0007, or the female caller line at that's 0817-923-0009. The WhatsApp number once again is 0809-030-6416. We'll take a quick break and we'll return shortly after this. Don't go away.
Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise.
Edifice.
Infrastructure.
Masterpiece. Residential. Industrial. Commercial.
Define, design, refine. Architects World. Delving into the field of design. Opening the mind to possibilities. Highlighting opportunities for everyday living. Architects World. Tuesdays 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back to the show. It's Architects World with architect Bozimo. I'm Gabriella. We're talking the tech in architecture. Quite interesting, I must say, so far what the conversation has been. I'd like that you join in with your questions. Well, before we get to the phone lines, quick question, architect Bozimo. While you were speaking, I was thinking in my head, does having that tech-enabled building or structure, does it always equate to a longer sustainable period of time for our buildings?
Well, I would argue that you don't even have to be at the very cutting edge of technology. You know, there is a huge spectrum of possibilities you can incorporate. Some people might say, look, I want to be focused on, say, my water consumption. Others could be my electricity consumption, or just the comfort of the house. Let's use an example. There are these houses that have blinds that literally can track the movement of the sun across the sky. So on a very hot day, the blinds can automatically be either lowered or slanted to keep the worst of the sunlight out. You would say, of course, correctly, A, you need light for that. Fine. Two, that's clear. And then two, that technology costs money. Very true. But here's the other side of it. Without such blinds, it's either you are in the house all the time monitoring it, or you have the building always maybe getting too hot. All right? And there's a cost to keep your interior comfort. You will maybe have to turn on your ACs. So if you have a technology that you installed at point one and it manages to keep the interior temperature of the house between 5 and 7 degrees cooler. You see, the human body is very, very interesting. There is a very narrow band of the combination of temperature and humidity that translates to human comfort. It's not a very wide range of temperatures. So if you're able to, by incorporating certain things, if you're able to keep your house within that band, then you are minimizing how much additional energy you might be using in cooling. And when you consider the cost of cooling here, you're either paying the public authorities or you're running your own personal generation. It's costing money. If because of what you do as an initial investment over the next 18 months, 3 years, 5 years, you have effectively reduced how much you're spending on keeping places cool, then beyond that certain time, you are living in profit. The same thing applies to things like solar energy installations. It's a capital cost, admittedly, but if you have it where at least it keeps certain things functioning for you all the time, no matter what the situation is, then at a certain point, you have saved as much money as you put in, considering your generator costs or other costs, and from then on, it's pure profit. And some of those things have a decent, useful life of 20, 25 years or more, straight up. So it's, at the end of the day, I'll never say it's free, neither will I even say it's necessarily cheap. Some of the technologies are getting cheaper, fortunately, but many of them are still imported around here, so there is that to consider.
Yeah.
But when you make that decision and you put the numbers together, and the people who will help you put those numbers together are all these built environment professionals. We have the electrical engineers, we have the mechanical engineers, even the amount of water you use in your shower. You know, here, typically, we all have boreholes. But you do realize that every individual having a borehole is an anomaly. You are not supposed to all be tapping into the aquifers underneath us. Maybe we're here in River State in the south. You can get water relatively easily. There's some part of this country where you have to go down 300 meters. Imagine the distance that people use to earn gold medal in Olympics. You have to go down, yes, that far to get some water. And even that is not good. The expense of going that far down, the difficulty and everything would have been solved if we collectively had a public source of water that's well treated, because even sometimes you can't guarantee the quality of the water that you're getting. We all hope it's the best, and because we're going a bit far down, we expect it to be, but we don't know. However, if you have a public water utility, they are always doing things to the correct standard. So it's all about thinking what's on the balance, what's better. Is our individual approach or the collective? But that's at a larger urban design level. In this individual tech ideas, you have things that allow you optimize how you're living your life, what you're spending your money on. You will spend some money to live, but are you spending it in things that are improving your quality of life, or just literally wasting it? Technology can help you make those wise choices and ensure that every kobo you expend is to the benefit, to the net benefit of your family.
Now let's talk about the cost. You mentioned a little bit about that as well. Excuse me. Now, for some people who obviously will be thinking, oh yeah, it sounds amazing, it sounds fantastic, but it's expensive, you know. So how essential is it for us, especially with the peculiarities in our climate, to, you know, inculcate tech in our built environment as it relates to how much it costs?
That's why, you know, nobody, I would never expect anybody to approach these things blind. It is important to always do what you would simply call a cost-benefit analysis. One of the uses of technology in architecture is that you can simulate things now. By doing a design in a certain way, I can literally place that design in virtual space, anywhere on the surface of the earth. I can simulate the effect of the sun in that space. I can simulate winds. I can do so much simulation that I'm able to determine to a very accurate degree how that project will perform. I can now utilize those kind of results to design, you know, with the other consultants, design the appropriate systems. And when you've designed those systems, the first thing to do is to present those ideas to the potential owner or users. You see, that's the beauty of it now. The simulations can be so realistic sometimes that you have things like virtual reality, where you can put on a pair of goggles and you actually perceive that you're within the space. All the things you would see, the building can be placed in the context. So if you look out of the window, you see the buildings that will be around there.
It's called alternate reality?
It's like alternate reality.
Sort of.
But it's virtual reality. That's what we design it and we do that. We even use tech to set out buildings using lasers, using GPS systems. It's no longer just somebody like in the village, you just use your leg and draw a line in the sand and, you know, say, move small. No, it's not like that. It's all lasers are part of the technology so that the buildings are done more accurately. And what you expect them to do in terms of the performance, you can guarantee it.
All right, the phone lines are open. You can join the conversation, whatever questions that you have. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. You can also call 0817-923-0007 or the female caller line 0817-923-0009. We're also streaming live on Facebook, by the way. On Facebook at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. Now, are there any downsides to tech in an enabled environment?
I would say there is that risk of somebody getting so buried in the potentials of technology that they are unable to take a step back. One of the things that professionals do for you is they're able to help you rationalize There are 1,000 options out there, believe me, because there's a lot of innovation going on in the space. The built environment, because it is so central to human life and activity, there's a lot of attention being spent. People come up with great ideas, and some of them, get developed further. So it's possible to be overwhelmed with all the possibilities. Part of what your consultants will do for you is take the relevant things. You see, there's always a study phase. These things don't just happen. In the conversation with the owner, you look at what the owner, may need now. You always project into the future, because even as you're talking to a consultant, time is passing. From when you have the initial conversation to when the design is being done, things could be changing for the better. The part of the pulse of the consultant is to know what's out there, to put it together in a compatible, because it's also possible to get one system, another system, and there are no compatibilities between them. So it is to create a functional, connected system. Again, it's not all about bells and whistles. You don't have to spend on all the bells and whistles. But whatever you decide to pay for should be properly integrated to enhance your function or your life in that space. So the downside could be somebody just getting so excited about all the possibilities that they are ready to spend money, and then they don't have a pure, well-ordered working system. One of the good things that people have now in buildings is called a building management system, BMS. It's a computerized, backbone that is connected to literally every device or gadget in your house when you intend like that. And you can monitor things, you can ensure that they are working optimally. And I don't know whether you've ever had a situation in a house you've lived in where you pump water, and surprisingly, considering the number of people there, it finishes seemingly too fast. You may suspect it, but you don't know objectively whether that's the case. With the building management system, some of them are set up so that they can measure water pressure. And when it seems as if there's always a leak, they can alert you. And when they alert you, you can now track it down. You are saving money ultimately, because you are not wasting tons and tons of water or turning on your what's that thing called?
Pumping
the
machine.
Borehole and pumping machine, and putting stress and wear on them. So this thing may cost a bit, as I say, but they ultimately help you conserve in the short and longer term. I don't think objectively there's a downside long term to thinking of appropriate technology to incorporate into your building, because it's like saying, you know what, I was trained using pen and ink. Okay, that was the technology available at that time. As I was getting towards the end of school, my father introduced me to computers, computer-aided design. I won't say that because I was comfortable with pen and ink, I must stay using that. I adopted to the new technology. And even within that space of computer-aided design, there is new and interesting movement. And so we keep adopting to the newer things, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is trying to give value to project owners.
Value to project owners. I mean, while you were speaking about that, I was thinking about, the power situation in Nigeria, and how, someone might also consider that, in light of that, how would you say someone who obviously is considering, having a tech-enabled, environment, how would you suggest that they handle the inconsistent power supply here?
Yes. Truly, I would think that one of the pillars of a technologically enabled environment would be to stabilize your power supply. And in our context here, that often requires having your own supplementary or independent power. And I would say the most common thing people have around here are the solar panels, the inverter systems, and all that, so that yes, they can be dependent on public power, but the way many of these things are done, the switchover is so fast as to seem seamless to the average, piece of equipment. So should public power fail in a millisecond, the other systems take over and the technology keeps being enabled. So yeah, it is what it is, but you need to at least establish your power. But it's not everything that you need power for. I would say, when people, we hear these adverts where people are talking about, hey, I'm using so much power. One of the things that could be very easy to get in your house that's not even connected to anything else could be a timer. You know, do you really need your deep freezer to be on 24 hours a day? You need it to be on to cool things down. And then maybe it could be off to conserve power. Now you could get a timer that you connect to that particular socket that stays on as long as there's power. It's counting the cumulative power. When the power is off, it's not. And so you're able to get X hours of power out of it, then it turns itself off. That is helping you also conserve money, especially in a prepaid metering situation. So again, technology doesn't mean all bells and whistles. It just means, what can I incorporate into this project that can enhance its use, its safety, its sustainability, and comfort where necessary.
0817 93 0002, 0817 93 0003. You can also call 0817 93 0007 or the female caller line 0817 93 0009. The WhatsApp number is 0809 030 6416. We're also on Facebook at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. Got a text here. A text here says, good afternoon, architect. Please. Okay, this person is trying to say, this person is asking, what do I start with in trying to transform my home to a tech? I don't quite understand what this person is saying, but I think the person is trying to ask where do you start?
We already answered that.
Yeah,
it's power.
Great.
Go ahead with the
hold that thought. We'll come to that shortly. Oh, sadly, we lost that. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Right. We touched on that. The first thing I think that would help is power. But again, let's step back from that. As I said, technology is anything that you're looking at in a systematic manner and trying to incorporate to improve and solve problems. So, you want to take that?
Yes, please. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, somehow, I don't know whether I could be behaving because I was trying to get across to the architect. I missed his number. It's about the building, because I'll be having this conversation about having this building that has wall that covers the roof, whether it's of any disadvantage in Nigeria's environment, or particularly for Port environment.
I think you might be talking about the parapet walls, a building where the roofing seems concealed behind a wall that comes up outside it. It's called a parapet wall. Okay. So the wall goes up. It may step out or it may just go up straight. It's an aesthetic style. People like it. It can be done properly. But there are certain things you must ensure. You see, the external envelope of the building must keep the weather out. Here in this part of the world and this country, water is one of our biggest challenges. So if you're doing that kind of roof, you must ensure that all the things you are doing, make sure that you are taking the water from the roof area down to the ground without spoiling the inside of the building. So you must ensure you have downspouts, either concealed or external. You must ensure that the joints of the slab to the wall are waterproofed. You must ensure that the tops of the walls have copings to make sure the water doesn't just drip down the sides of the walls and make it ugly. It's a possibility, but I would always say, in this part of the world, when you are spending money on a project, you don't want to spend money so that you will continue spending money.
True.
You would like, to the best of your ability, to spend money and minimize the potential for challenges to come. You want to make sure that you build once and look back and do other things. So when you incorporate things like parapets, unless in certain cases, you might be introducing potential areas of challenge and or failure.
Okay.
So again, the aesthetic is up to the owner. The key is that the architect and their consultants will explain to them what the upsides or downsides of that idea might be. And then if they decide to take it on, then they are aware. You just don't want a situation where your owner is quote-unquote surprised 2-5 years down the line. What you might find in some cases with the parapet wall is that you may have increased need for maintenance. But when you have a situation where your roof overhangs your wall, so that water falls off the edge of the roof, either through gutters or down to the ground, maybe on a bungalow, then the surface of the walls are not always being hit by water, and so they may not discolor very speedily, and you might have less to do with maintenance. Also, the other upside of an overhang is that that roof can give shade to the wall and some windows, thus keeping the building cooler. These are just, some basic ideas, but each individual design will be different. There might be certain things that some people want to achieve, other things, and that's why when you talk to your architect, you can explore those possibilities together.
Now, talking about that, is the architect person to meet within, the group of people, professionals within that building environment, to meet about the tech?
Oh yes, I mean the architect has this role, apart from us being the ones who design fundamentally the spaces and deal with your functions. We also have a role of incorporating the other technologies and ideas into that final form. The architect has the vision and relies on very, very smart consultants. We work again as a team. So let's also say you might have a friend who has excellent technology in his house. You might know the owner of the person that sold him the technology. It is perfectly appropriate to introduce the person to your architect and say, look, I saw a XYZ in my friend's house and I learned that this person is the one who does it. Get the person in. The architect will discuss with the person, extract the particulars of that idea or that item, and tell you if or whether it's appropriate for your own project. You see, because not everything you see somewhere else that may be appropriate for yours. Or, having known that this is something you like, an architect could help you propose something else that may be either more economical, more efficient, or both. But at the end of the day, the architect's role is to incorporate everybody and all the ideas into that final project for your best interests.
Okay, we've got about, say, 3-4 minutes left to wrap the conversation up. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. You can also call 0817-923-0007 or 0817-923-0009. You can also watch us on Facebook as you drop your comments at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. Okay, so I think I saw a message here earlier.
Okay.
Let's see. I saw a comment here. Oh, here it is. So this says, good afternoon, Gabby and architect Bozimo. My question is, how much do how much do I need to have before I consider building a tech home? Oh, now there's a second question. It says, can I have this in a rented space? That's from Rashford.
Two very interesting questions. First of all, the beauty of the design process is that it is possible to make provisions for something even when you can't yet afford it all. The important thing is to have thought about it and to now make provisions so that perhaps later on,
when you can afford it,
you can now incorporate it. So at that early stage, it's possible for us to put in all the pipes, all the conduits, and assorted switches or blanks, so that when the time comes, you can now remove those blanks and replace them with things. Then how much will always depend on some of the ideas you are thinking of incorporating. So those will emerge from the discussion and the design process. It would be inappropriate, arguably irresponsible, to try and snap a finger and come up with a figure when you don't even know what that person might want. Then last thing, whether to do it in rented space. There are certain things you can certainly incorporate into your rented space. CCTV cameras. There are many things you can do. So, as I said, there's that ultimate picture of this high-tech house that everything happens at the snap of a hand. That's a beautiful house. But wherever you are, at whatever level you are, there are elements you can consider and incorporate, even in your own rented space.
All right, let's squeeze this call in. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. That is me again. I just want to appreciate that effect. I think you are giving a concise answer because I'm trying to ask this question, but people are just not, like maybe not. A lot of persons they never think it. But that's the last question. Is it better to have your soccer way in front of your house, maybe where you be parking your car on top of it?
Well, you know, the parking arrangement on a particular project site will depend entirely on the size and disposition of that project site, how it relates to the road, what the zoning of the area is, if you're allowed to park in front or not. But if you decide, and if it's allowed in that area, definitely the slabs that will allow you park your car on top of them must be designed and supervised by a structural engineer, because you don't want a situation where you are parked tonight, you go into the house and come back tomorrow and your car has fallen into the gutter. So all these things that you say and take for granted, they have to be specially considered, and the appropriate person for such a thing would be the structural engineer. They are the ones who have the mastery of forces, loads and all that, both static and there's the other thing, dynamic loads. A car rolling over a slab is not a static load, it moves, and so they will do the right thing and ensure that you can do it. But again, you can't say yes or no. It depends on the site, the zoning, what's allowed, what's disallowed. Absolutely, and that's why each project or each zone has its own considerations, and that is what the built environment professionals are masters of, interpreting those standards and applying them to your project, so that you're not surprised by that big red X one day. You start a project and somebody comes with an X. It's embarrassing and completely unnecessary. Okay, I mean, tech, as I say, has different levels. You have the ultimate ones where everything is, you know, beautiful and automated.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have relatively simple things like timers and all that can just help you optimize and minimize your expenditure. At the end of the day, whatever you're going to do, it's a possibility. You can have a conversation with your consultants. Our role is to take your ideas, apply the standards applicable, and then convert them into the built environment for your good. So it's well worth dealing with consultants. I say this not because I'm a consultant only, but because I have seen too many cases of people who spent considerable sums of money and got results that were completely suboptimal. Nobody deserves a terrible project, and it's up to you in your own enlightened self-interest to consider that the cost of, let's say, your project, you had every single consultant possible. The total fee you will pay is 14.4% of your project cost. Do you know how much people waste in terms of not using consultant, and then they have to break, or you don't even break, but for your entire time of using that project or living in it or renting it out, it's one quarrel after the other. 14.4% disappears as fast as you go, and then you have permanent goodwill. So I just suggest, that's all I can do, suggest you work with professionals in those industries, because we all do that in every industry. I've never had a toothache and gone to a carpenter. I go to a dentist.
Okay.
So for building things, go to the built industry professionals and you get your best results.
What a way to wrap it up. What a way. It drives the message home. Let's have the social handles.
I can be reached at Bozimo on the normal band and unbanned platforms.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bozimo. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and a privilege.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for making today's conversation quite the thing. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Have yourself a lovely afternoon.
All right.
On that note, we've got to wrap the conversation up. Thank you so much. At 3 o'clock, Rivers Today, and afterwards, Daya takes you on Hard Facts. Good afternoon.